Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world. And we have today uh, from England, United Kingdom to Canada. Now we're going to go to the area. By the way, this is a book we're going to talk about in a minute. Every Other Weekend. Does that sound familiar to you? How many of you have lived every other weekend in different places in your life? Well, this author has, and going all the way back to the olden days of early movies and stuff like that in Hollywood. He's got a fantastic story. But first, I want to ask him about, because where he is right now, he's surrounded by fire, I think. Welcome, Judge Anthony Mohr.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me on. And yes, we are a bit surrounded. So far, my neighborhood is safe. We are not in an evacuation zone, but within about 4 miles or so, there is an evacuation zone for the Palisades fire. We've had a very sleepless night. We packed. Our bags are by the door just in case. But from where I'm sitting, and I'm up on the second story, and I can look out to the west and to the east, and I don't see anything. The sky is blue, so we're very fortunate.
You don't see any fire from where
on a dime.
You don't see any fire from where you are, and not even any smoke, or not much smoke where you are?
I'm not seeing any smoke. I was out about 30 minutes ago. No smoke, blue sky. But as I look out my window to the east, the sky is turning a little bit vanilla, which is probably from the Easton fire, which is pretty far away, but horrifically bad.
Yeah. And, of course, those winds have been crazy. They could switch any minute.
Oh, yeah, on a dime.
Yeah.
On a dime.
I guess
in which case, I mean, it could happen, and I could say, look, I got to run and get off the air here and run out and get in the car and take off.
Well, if you do, leave the camera rolling.
I'll do that.
My kids went to Pepperdine, and they had fires on their campus a few times when they were there, and I guess it keeps getting threatened again, and Malibu's on fire too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this shows you that California is not the paradise we think it is.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I hope the best for you and for your neighborhood and the whole area. It's just the footage we see here is just incredible.
It's really bad. Several of my pals and colleagues from the bench and I have talked or emailed, and they've evacuated, or they have evacuees in their houses.
Yeah, we back to your book. We talked about this a few times. That when I was a kid in the '60s, there were no. Of course, I'm in the Central Valley, where it's a little more conservative, but there were no divorces.
Yeah.
In those days, and I think maybe we're about the same age. But was it unusual your parents got divorced?
My parents divorced when I was 9. That was 1956. It was unusual. It made the papers because my dad was a known actor.
Wow.
And it was considered shameful. Fortunately, nobody shamed me. I never was teased. I never was berated by anybody for it. So I consider myself pretty lucky, because divorce was frowned upon at that time.
My buddy is an attorney and about your age, and he grew up in Ohio, and his mom was single, and they wouldn't let him in the Boy Scouts.
Wow.
Because the stigma, as you said. And
well, when I may have said this once upon a time, but I remember, in high school, I wanted to kind of be in the nice group of nice people, because school was the center of my world. Because the two households, I'm not saying we're dysfunctional, but they both had their differences, and it was hard getting used to either a stepmother or a stepfather. And my friends, who were the quote-unquote nice kids in the school, none of them came from a divorced family.
Wow.
Not a one.
Amazing. In the Hollywood days. Tell us who your father was. He was an actor?
He was. Gerald Mohr was his name. He was an actor first on radio. He was called the Iron Duke because he never flubbed his lines. He played Philip Marlowe, among many other characters, but Philip Marlowe was his claim to fame. But he also was he was on The Shadow, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, a number of other shows, almost 500 radio plays, one way or the other. But Philip Marlowe was really his high point. And then after that, when TV came in, he managed to do well, not as well as on the radio, but he featured in a number of westerns. You could almost call your shot in terms of what show he appeared on: Wagon Train, Bonanza, Gunsmoke, The Rifleman, Bat Masterson. He was in them all. Usually as the bad guy.
Nice. Did he, not to be insensitive, but this was in the 40s, 40s probably, 50s?
Radio in the late 40s to early 50s. And then starting in 52 or so, television.
Yeah, and
And
did he
here and there, a few
particularly
movies.
uh,
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
did he particularly have a lot of money?
I mean, he did okay. We lived in a nice house in Sherman Oaks. It was on a half-acre ground.
Wow.
Since then, the house has been subdivided. Um, so he had money. He wasn't wealthy by anybody's standards back then.
Yeah.
But we were comfortable. I never remember being told we're going to be poor or anything else. After my dad remarried, his second wife constantly said money was a problem.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, she once said, "quote We're poor."
Rapport, yeah. I guess later in life, did he make less money, have fewer roles?
He never really made a lot of money after the divorce.
You always
He
picture
really
people in Hollywood as millionaires. They're all millionaires.
Yeah, well, money was tight with him.
Yeah.
My stepdad, different story. He was a wild success, and there was a book called "You Only Have to Get Rich Once," and he was mentioned in it fairly prominently. So, one weekend I was with a very wealthy family, and then the next weekend I was with a family where money was tight.
Yeah. And were they both in Southern California?
Yeah, they lived within a few miles of each other. Beverly Hills to Hollywood.
Yeah. And your stepfather, he was pretty influential in your life?
He was. I mean, my mother married him at the age of 11. Same year my dad remarried. And Stan was influential. He, kind of taught me a lot of things. He was very different from my father, kind of a disciplinarian, wanted kids to work. He's on record as saying children shouldn't have that much fun. My father, of course, wanted to have lots of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a study in opposites, Mike. It was a study in opposites.
So was it literally every other weekend you'd go back and forth?
Yeah, literally. I lived with my mother and Stan, my stepdad, for 5 days a week. But each second weekend, my father would pick me up, go to his house, stay there until Sunday night. He'd drop me off. That was the way it worked. That was the plan.
And was it a lot more fun over there?
Over at my father's?
Yeah.
Not when we were home, because his second marriage was not very good. In fact, at one point he walked out on his second wife and told me all about it. I was very much in the mix in terms of hearing what was going on.
Oh, boy.
What was fun was when he and I were alone. We'd go have lunch together, go play miniature golf, go horseback riding. Then it was fun.
Yeah.
But at home, no, it wasn't much fun at all. But here and there, we were in a couple of the Christmas parades in Hollywood. When sometimes I was with him on the set. That was fun.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
So your dad actually rode horses. He's a real Western guy.
He was very good on horseback, and apparently nobody had to do his stunts. He could ride extremely well, a lot better than I ever could, I can tell you that.
My favorite, one of my favorite websites is Internet Movie Database. I have to look them up, and I'm going to watch some of those movies before I talk to you again.
You will see a very lengthy list of appearances.
Wow.
If you go on the IMDb and look for them.
Well, you had quite a journey from being a child of divorce, and you ended up being a Superior Court judge.
Yeah. Which I would say, if you're a kid and you're a child of divorce, and then you end up in two different families, unless you want to go into science, be a judge. It's great preparation to kind of navigate two different cultures.
Yeah. And who was your stepfather? Was more of a disciplinarian, more focused on success. How did you end up in law school?
I loved debate in high school, and I wrote for the school paper. I was one of the editors of the paper, and people used to say, well, you like to write, you like to speak, you should go to law school. And I didn't know what law school was. I didn't know any lawyers. We had no lawyers in the family. We had no college graduates in the family. But I kept thinking, all right, I'll go to law school. I wasn't sure what else to do, although I considered journalism school. But the law schools took me before I could get the journalism applications out the door.
Nice. What schools did you go to, by the way?
I went to Columbia Law School.
Oh, nice. That's in
New York.
In New York. In New York. So yes. Fascinating. That had to be so you had a whole New York life too.
It was. I mean, it was. We lived in New York for almost a year when I was 10 to 11, because my mother moved back there to be with her siblings and her own mother. That was after the divorce. So I spent almost a year in the New York schools. Yeah. Then, when my mother married Stan, he happened to come from L.A., and he moved us back. But Yeah, at Columbia, I was in New York City for 3 years.
Wow, what a life. And so
Yeah.
you experience things most Californians don't. It snowed there this past week in New
It
York.
snowed there, exactly. You know the song "New York's a Lonely Town" by the Trade Winds?
Yeah.
Yeah, that song always called to me. I wasn't a surfer, except I did like to body surf.
Hmm.
My friends and I would run down to the beach and do that, but I never got up on a board. But
Wow.
when I heard that song, it called to me because you don't do much surfing in New York. You really
No,
don't.
no, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, amazing. So, is this a memoir? Is it a cautionary tale? Is it a tale of history?
It's a memoir, which also I wanted to bring in what it was like to live in L.A.
Hmm.
back in the late 50s, early 60s, before everything turned around. It was a time that Kevin Starr, our state librarian at the time, said was California's golden era.
Hmm.
It was an era of prosperity and wealth. The state was flush with money. The infrastructure was just galloping along. Kids had fun.
Yeah.
It was the era of the Beach Boys, Frankie and Annette on the beach.
Yep.
It was a really golden time when life was easy, and I tried to light that up in the book as
Mhm.
much as I could.
Anybody interested in studying that period? I love to study that period. This sounds like a great book for that.
I would hope so. I mean, I tried to make it that way. The readers will have to decide, but yeah, I put in a lot of material about what it was like, in Hollywood for a B-list actor, what it was like to go to a school, especially Beverly Hills High School.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Were
I
there
did my best.
were there other actors' kids in the high school?
Lots of them. We lost count as to how many.
Yeah.
Uh, but in my class alone, I mean, Lee J. Cobb's daughter was there, Larry Bishop's son was there, Park Your Carcass's son was there, and actually became very well known as Albert Brooks.
Oh yeah. Wow.
There were others. There were others running around. A year ahead of us, we had Danny Kaye's daughter and Groucho Marx's daughter. I mean, they were all over the
Yeah.
place, and we really treated them as anybody else.
Yeah.
It was like, this was normal. We weren't all a gag or aghast at celebrity children because there were so many of them.
There were so many of them. Yeah. Now, just to clarify, you went to high school with Albert Brooks?
Yeah, he was in my class. So was Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah. Wow. And does Albert Brooks have a brother? Forget that story.
I don't know. We were not close. I really don't know his family situation.
You're just both there. There had to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. And
You're running around the campus, and it's like fish don't know they're in water. We didn't know we were running around with all these celebrity children.
And did you ever get the acting bug?
Did I get the acting bug? Well, when I was 7, and my dad was filming a series in Sweden, I did, and I asked him to be in the show. And they gave me a line, a speaking part, and I really had a lot of trouble. They had to go through 17 takes before they got something that was useful.
Yeah.
And even then, when they got on the air, you saw me, but they narrated across my lines because I wasn't doing well.
Awesome.
I tried in grammar school, didn't do that well either, and by high school, I didn't try at all because the drama department at Beverly Hills High School was really for people who were going to be professional.
Yeah. A little competitive, I would imagine.
You bet. You bet.
So at some point, you went, by the way, what kind of law did you do?
I was basically handling business litigation, trials, if you will, some appellate work, no personal injury, no family law, thank you very much. I had no desire to do it. But basically, mon pa litigation all the way up to some litigation involving big companies.
Yeah. Wow. So you become a judge. You're appointed by the governor. That's how you become a judge, right?
Right. You can run for election, but in Los Angeles, that's pretty much a difficult road to hoe because it's very expensive. But I'd say 95% of us are appointed by the governor.
Yeah. And did you do any famous cases that we would have seen on the news?
Oh, I had one that did make the news. It's not a famous case, but it involved a football star at UCLA who almost made it onto the Rams.
Wow.
And he was a fabulous guy. And unfortunately, he was in a terrible accident and lost a leg.
Oh, boy.
And so there was a question about not only the cab driver who hit him, but the design of the intersection. So Caltrans was sued. And he won. He had a very good lawyer, a guy named Garo Martirosyan, who's just a really spot-on lawyer, knows what he's doing. And Nick won a $35 million verdict. and it was televised. I allowed the cameras in for the
Nice.
verdict, but not for the trial. So that was there. The Bridgestone, Firestone cases, the rollover cases were
Yep.
mine.
Mm.
Again, they weren't, this is not the O.J. Simpson case
Yeah.
or something like that. But, they were noticed,
Yeah.
put it that way.
Amazing. What an amazing time. Now, you're relatively young now. I mean, it used to be your age was old, but now you're not an old guy. It's kind of more of a middle age now.
Well, I'm in my 70s, Mike.
Okay. But your
that's
memoir,
starting to get up there.
for a memoir, is there more you need to put down from your life?
Well, I mean, I could say a lot more. I said what I wanted to say, and basically the time frame of the book is, childhood through high school, focusing on the second marriage, which was from age 11 through age 18 when I stopped, because at that point I was on my way to college.
Mm-hmm.
But I could write other things. I might write about what it's like to be a judge. That might
Yeah.
be more of an essay collection than a memoir. And you have to be careful when you write that, because you don't want to start writing about cases that are still pending or,
Yeah.
or
People-
invade somebody's privacy.
People are still alive.
I'm
kind
not
of
sure,
thing.
but I have written a few essays about judging, and some of them have made it into publications.
Well, you could do a whole chapter on being on internet TV with Mike Briggs. I mean,
I could. I could.
oh, let's get back to this book now. Here's the cover. Every Other Weekend. Where can people get this book?
My website, anthonyjmohr.com. You could get it at Amazon. You could get it at Barnes & Noble, IndieBound. The publisher sells them, Kohler Books. They're available.
Yeah, is there any reason? I mean, I like to buy direct from authors' websites. Some of their websites, you click and it just takes you to Amazon.
Mine's going to take you into Amazon.
Okay.
But if you want to buy directly from me,
Uh,
I can do it. I've got some books here. Not that many anymore, but I've got some, and I could just ship you a book.
Yeah, that'd be more fun.
Autographed, in fact.
Next time I'm down there, I'm going to come pick one up from you, and we'll do our picture and get it autographed and everything.
You got a
so.
deal. You got a deal. Assuming my house is still standing
I know,
after
my
these
goodness.
fires,
Yeah.
come on down.
Yeah. What, Anthony, we're running out of time as always. I always go over with you because you're so fascinating to talk to. And you lived during this great golden age in the 50s, 60s, 40s also, I would guess. And
Late 40s. I was just a little infant then.
Yeah, okay.
The late 40s.
but you've been through so much, you've seen so much, and just want to give you a minute. Anything else you want to tell our viewers about the book, about you, the fires, anything in the world you want to talk about?
I like the book. It actually has won a series of awards, which is very nice. Came in this last week. The one group gave it number 4 in the year for nonfiction, which was nice. That was the Outstanding Creator Awards. But beyond that, keep good thoughts for the people in the fires. Many of them have lost their homes. A number of my friends are evacuated. A lot of our childhood spots and things that made California what it is are disappearing.
Oh, boy.
It's a frightfully sad time. Just keep everybody in your prayers, please.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye open. And in the meantime, everybody who's watching, there's the book, Every Other Weekend, Coming of Age with Two Different Dads. Unique perspective from a time when there weren't that many instances of two different dads. And
You got that right.
Judge Anthony Mohr went through it and lived through it and is here to tell the story. So I encourage you to get the book. Thank you, Anthony, and hopefully we'll talk to you again in a month or so.
Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, for our viewers, don't go anywhere because we're going to be back with another author right after this.